Welcome back, comic fans. Mr. Q Comics back with another show and tell video here. First off, big thank you to all my subscribers, everyone who's been checking out these videos on a regular basis, leaving comments below. Really appreciate you guys. If you are new, welcome to the channel. I hope you enjoy the content I put out. I basically showcase vintage back issues, and I'm hunting. I do read new comic books, but I don't really get into showing off my new comic book day hauls so much. I just find it a lot more fun chasing down vintage back issues. And I'm always looking for stuff on the cheap. So most of the stuff is usually pretty good prices. There are times where I'm paying fair market value, but I'm typically trying to pick up stuff that is undervalued. When I got back into comics in 2015, I realized it is a pretty expensive hobby. And my thought process is I'm always trying to get books at a price that if I have to sell for whatever reason, personal emergency, something with the family, then I'm going to at least get my money back. That's my general philosophy when I'm chasing down back issues. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule, and there are books that I will pony up for. So anyways, in this haul, we've got a bit of everything. We got some modern books, all the way through, bronze, silver, and I think there is a single golden age book in this stack here. And this is stuff, as usual, I'm kind of piling together 3 or 4 trips to local shops, flea markets, stuff like that, and showing off a decent stack of books. So it's a bit of a mix. I'm not going to kind of go shop by shop. So I kind of mix it all together, based kind of in order of what I think is most interesting from the stacks. So let's jump right in. One of my local shops had some Walking Dead back issues, so I grabbed a couple extra copies. I think I just had a brain cramp on this. It's Walking Dead 181. It's one of the final story arcs from the run. I think I thought it was the first appearance of Princess for whatever reason. It isn't. I think it's like in the 170s is her first appearance, but I grabbed a copy. They were just cover price. I grabbed along with this 177, which is the first appearance of Mercer. So I did start reading The Walking Dead when I got back into books. It's one of the reasons I got back into collecting, was into the TV show, and the compendiums came up on like Google Play for like $5. So I got both of them and read the first 80 issues digitally, and that kind of got me back into collecting. So I started picking up the singles and stuff like the new Star Wars movies and things like that. My kids got me the Secret Wars comic for Father's Day one year. These were kind of some of the impetus, I guess, for me getting back into the hobby. So, all right, some more modern stuff. Series I'm not too familiar with, but I've shown this off before. Annihilation Conquest Prologue. This was decent shape. It's somewhere in the very fine range. It's from August 2007, and it's Alexi. I'm gonna butcher it. I can't read my own handwriting. Bricklot painted cover. I think that's right. I can't even tell. He just signs it Alexi. Pretty cool cover. I don't know if he did all the covers on these Annihilation Conquest series. This was like $4, so I thought it was decent to pick up. And I think it's the first cameo appearance of the Wraith. I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure this is the first cameo. So for a minor key for $4, it's kind of tied into the Guardians and Silver Surfer. I see all these crossovers with the cosmic characters on this series, so I figured it's worth picking up with everything that's going on in the MCU and Marvel Universe. So, all right, some early 90s back issue stuff. Web of Spider-Man 86. This was definitely a series I was into as a kid, at least for part of the time. I started off with Amazing Spider-Man, then spun off into Spectacular, and occasionally picked up some Web of Spider-Man. This was probably right about the time I stopped collecting. It's Web of Spider-Man 86. This is the first appearance of the Demo Goblin, separate from the Hobgoblin, who I think at this time was Jason Macendale. So I guess he was the second Hobgoblin, I think. Used to be Jack-O-Lantern. I think he took over the mantle when the original Hobgoblin, totally forgetting who the actual Hobgoblin was, when he got killed. So I remember the kind of actual demon version of the Hobgoblin from the Inferno series that came up. I thought that was the late 80s. It might have been the early 90s, but it was an uncanny X-Men storyline with a lot of spin-offs into other titles. So this was only like $2, and I love anything with the Hobgoblin, and there are some definitely cool Hobgoblin-related keys in the Web of Spider-Man run. And you can usually find them pretty cheap because there's just not a lot of huge books in the Web line other than probably Web #1, the couple with the Venom cameo, and of course the Kraven's Last Hunt arc, which is I think 31 and 32. So for the most part, there's you know, a handful of minor keys in there, especially later in the run, that you can find on the cheap. And like I said, I think this was like $2. It's in a very fine shape, so I was pretty happy with that. Another 90s book that everyone I'm sure has, Superman number 75, Death of Superman. I do remember this as a kid and how crazy everyone went. I think my brother actually got me a copy of this for Christmas, double bagged or double boarded and bagged, and it was like $8 at the time or something like that, something nuts like that. And I normally would just not get this. I mean, you could see this all over the place, obviously. I grabbed it because it's the second print. I didn't know much about the print runs on these later printings, but I figured, what the heck? It's in really good shape, very fine, near mint range, and I think it was like $4. A little bit pricier than I like for the Death of Superman. I'd hope to find this in the dollar bin, but I don't really recall seeing the second print out in the wild too often, so I figured, what the hell, I'll grab a copy of it. So I really did not go nuts when I was a kid with this. I think I got one, and I think I had been out of collecting, and my brother just got it as a gift, and I had basically stopped at that point. So pretty cool, happy to get that. I'd like to see, I think there's third and fourth prints, so I'd like to get my hands on some of those, at least one. All right, back to some Marvel key stuff. We have got X Factor 24. This is always a cool book I look for. I actually got 2 copies, both probably in the very fine range. It's the first appearance of Archangel. This is Louise Simonson on the story and Walt Simonson on the cover and art. And I think I got one for like $7 and one for $4.50. I don't know why they were different prices. One of the shops that's kind of probably the one I go into, the least for back issues. When they get in a collection, they'll have it just sitting out on the floor until they process it. And honestly, sometimes it sits out for months. So I'll look through the boxes and ask if they mind me pulling stuff out. And usually they don't, but they price it on the fly. And it depends on who's pricing it. If the owner prices it, he usually gives me a lot better deals than there's another guy who works in the shop, and he is all over the map with the prices. There are books that sometimes he's giving me prices that to me are like double what the book is worth, and other times extremely undervalued. And this was I grabbed a stack of probably like 20 books and ended up picking out maybe 3 or 4 this time. And for whatever reason, he had these priced differently. But I picked them both up. I always think it's a great key to find. And I can usually find this, if not in dollar bins, for a few dollars. So I was happy to get those. And I definitely am into any X-Men keys, especially of late, and holding on to them. So 2 copies of that. And I think I've got a few more in the boxes somewhere. This was cool. I never really read the series. It's Gen 13 number 1. I am pretty sure this is volume 2. I know it's J. Scott Campbell who did this. I think he did the interiors in this one, but this is that book that has a ton of different variants. It's got like the cool Janet Jackson cover that it looks like her album cover, and there's a few other ones. And this is the Pulp Fiction cover, obviously an homage to Pulp Fiction, which I remember coming out when I was a teenager and loved that movie, and I just thought this was cool. I normally won't pay up too much for these kind of rare variants, but this was only like $7, and it's in really good shape, very fine near mint. And I just thought it was really cool, bit of 90s nostalgia from my childhood, so I couldn't walk away from that one. I hemmed and hawed, and I'm like, I've never even seen this before, so I'm not going to leave it. So pretty cool. Another variant, this is a modern one, recent book, Vampirella number 1, and I went into my shop just to pick up my books and dig through back issues, and he happened to be bagging this, and he had it marked at like $8. I'm pretty sure it's a 1 in 10. Obviously, Adam Hughes, awesome, hot Adam Hughes cover, and it's an homage to a previous Adam Hughes cover, I think from the 2000s somewhere, I can't remember. I know I've seen the original one. I think I just stumbled across it the other day in some back issues, and I didn't buy it because it was pretty expensive. Plus, I got this one. So this one's a little more, it's obviously the modern-looking Hughes. Still a hot Vampirella cover. I don't read Vampirella, but man, they put out some amazing covers. The current books, when this one came out, there's a fantastic Ross cover, and I think the Cho cover was beautiful as well. So for $8, I figured, what the heck? It was a cool 1 in 10. I was a little disappointed when I got home. It's dinged up. I think it's got a minor crease on the back, so I kind of wish he would have told me that. I don't think he noticed, but still, for $8, beautiful, beautiful Hughes cover. So don't mind spending a little extra on an awesome Hughes variant if it's that cheap. Some of them can go just crazy. So, all right, back to some cool kind of pinup cover art. This is the CBLDF presents Liberty Comics #1. I had never seen this, but I'm a sucker for J. Scott Campbell. This was in the dollar bins at a different shop, so I couldn't pass it up. J. Scott Campbell art, this cool 90s pinup style. Actually, this is much later, 2008 it says. So, Danger Girl on the cover. Again, I don't read it, but I'll pick up copies just for that pinup style art. I think it is really cool. I definitely prefer Adam Hughes, I would say. Even Art Germ over J. Scott Campbell, I think he does beautiful work. I just find it does look a bit redundant. I have a little trouble. I mean, I love the covers, but sometimes, I mean, you can't tell the difference between Mary Jane and Marvel Girl if you just change the costume. They look the same. So, anyways, it's still beautiful. So, I grabbed it for $1. All right, so now we're getting into some more, let's see, some of the copper, the bronze, and the silver. This is The Huntress #1 from DC Comics 1989. This is the origin and first appearance of the new Huntress, Helena Bertinelli. It's done by Joey Cavallari on the story. And again, can't read my handwriting. Staten, cover and art, I think. And I didn't read this at all. I've never read this book. But it is $3, I think. And it's in decent shape, probably very fine range. So I wasn't going to leave behind any keys like this. These minor keys, I will grab them if I find them in my shop for a few dollars. I am definitely going to hold on to them. They're great trade bait. They're great books to flip. You never know with speculation. So for a few bucks, even 80s books, even titles I don't read, definitely great to pick up. And I may pick it up at some point. I definitely don't have any intention on flipping this or anything like that, at least not right away. Okay, back to some of the Atlas books. I have been picking up some of these recently. I kind of cooled off in finding them. I kind of got a good 10 or 12, I think, and kind of said maybe that's enough here. But my shop had a copy of this, Demon Hunter #1, which I hadn't found. This is from September of '75. Decent shape, higher mid-grade, probably fine, very fine range. It was only $6, which I thought was a good price. This same shop had been putting out a ton of Atlas books, a ton of the #1s. And they obviously knew about the craze because they had everything marked up like $15, which to me is way overpriced for what I'm going to put into books that are pure speculation. If I can get them in the $5 range, I'm okay with that. But I wasn't paying the $15. So I didn't have this one. And for $6 or whatever it was, I thought it was a safe bet. So this book, I guess, just lasted one issue. It was revived at Marvel later on as the Demon Slayer. It's the origin and first appearance of the Demon Hunter. It's Rick Buckler and David Kraft's story, and Rich Buckler on the cover and art. And I typically dig some of Rich Buckler's stuff, but I got to say, I read this and not really that good. I struggled to get through it. It was kind of boring and confusing and just a weird concept. So I don't know. I guess these Atlas books are kind of hit or miss. I have not read many of them. I had just got through reading some Thor books that Rich Buckler had done some art on that I thought was fantastic, and I figured, what the heck, I'll read it. But wasn't a huge fan, but maybe I got to go back and read some of the other Atlas books. So, all right, back to some Marvel stuff. This one I did read as well, and this is fantastic. Giant-sized superheroes featuring Spider-Man #1. I think this is the only book in this giant-size line. This is just an awesome cover with Morbius and the Man-Wolf. This is classic Bronze Age Spidey. This is this type of stuff that totally got me into superheroes, into Spider-Man. Just classic stuff. Spidey struggling to be the hero and be in a relationship with Mary Jane and the student and all of that stuff. And that's what I always loved about Spider-Man, is the juggling of being a hero and being a regular person and that struggle he has. And this has definitely got that. It is fantastic. Jerry Conway story, Gil Kane interiors, and I love this John Romita cover. It is in pretty decent shape. It was only, again, $3. It's probably in the, I've marked it down as very good fine. It might be, it looks a little more in the fine range. The colors still pop on it. Fantastic buy. I think, guys, this is a great book to pick up. It's early Morbius. I think it's like probably his 5th appearance or something like that. So they reference, the previous meeting between Spider-Man and Morbius being Marvel Team Up 3 and 4 in one of the panels. And I know Marvel Team Up 3 is like his 3rd appearance right after Spider-Man 101 and 102. So early Morbius, a couple bucks, can't go wrong. Great Bronze Age Spidey stuff. Okay, now we're getting into pretty much all the Silver Age stuff here. So Okay, I just showed this off in a video a couple of videos ago. New Gods #2, of course, Jack Kirby, the Fourth World stuff. This is the second full appearance and first cover of Darkseid. Also, a couple other, I think, first cameo of the Deep Six. I have not read any of this Kirby stuff. I've definitely been trying to piece together some of the books. I'd like to find some lower grade reader copies so I can do some reading. I'm definitely interested in reading this, whatever it is, the Fourth World stuff from Kirby. But obviously, the books are crazy hot because of the speculation on the New Gods movie. This was, 15 bucks, and you could not go wrong with that. It's mid grade. I think the last one I showed off was much higher grade and probably double the price, but I still find this one cheap in the $10 to $15 range, and I think I've got like 4 or 5 copies of it now. So you cannot beat it. Early Jack Kirby, New God stuff. Can't pass that up for 15 bucks. Another book I've shown off probably 3 or 4 times. Maybe this is the third time. I can't remember. Fantastic Four Annual, #5. It's the first solo Silver Surfer story. Again, you have got Stan Lee and Jack Kirby from November of 1967. This one's a little more beat up than the other ones I've gotten. It was only 10 bucks. I didn't even bother to take it out for 10 bucks. But it's ripped in the back. It's got a tear, and I think some of the pages in the back are torn. But again, for $10, I think this is a great key to pick up, tied into the Silver Surfer and Fantastic Four and the MCU going cosmic. Obviously the Silver Surfer books are crazy expensive, fairly unaffordable for a lot of people. So this is a great one to look out for, guys. And it's Jack Kirby and Stan Lee for 10 bucks. Even if, forget the movies, even if there aren't the movies, for $10, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Silver Age, Fantastic Four. That's a no-brainer. Even with the tears, that'll be the reader copy right there. All right, some more Fantastic Four. More Lee and Kirby. Fantastic Four 46. This is the first appearance of Black Bolt, and this is from January of 66. I have a copy of this. This is probably one of the keys I got back when I first got back into books, when I started really ponying up for back issues. Mine is in a little bit worse shape. I think my cover's coming off at one of the staples, so this one's slightly better. I've never been a huge fan of the Inhumans, and I really don't know much about them other than modern stuff. I've really only read them in modern comics. I never read anything with the Inhumans back when I was a kid. This is a really cool cover. My books are in rough shape, but man, I bet this thing is gorgeous in high grade. I mean, the reds there, the energy beams coming off of Black Bolt's antenna. I think it's really cool. Just great Silver Age stuff. I did read it. Definitely a cool Silver Age book. Just those classic Stan Lee stories. Just really dig it. So this is, again, it's low grade, but it was like, let me see what I pay for it. He gave it to me for like 35 bucks, which I thought was a really fair price. He'd had some back issues behind the counter. They hadn't put out on the main floor. I think they had some problems with people taking books out of the bag and switching them around to get cheaper prices, which is a total dirtbag thing to do. So they were keeping some behind the counter, and they let me come behind and look. And I think he had a few that weren't marked. And this store's always great. When they're not marked, he'll just sometimes throw me dirt cheap prices. So I wasn't going to pass it up. I knew it was better than my other copy, at least because the cover was attached at both staples. So psyched to get that. A little bit better copy for me. It's definitely got a lot of color loss there, but still cool book, and I do not mind low grade when it's affordable like that. And I got this one with it as well, which I've got multiple copies of. Fantastic Four 67. Of course, this is the first appearance or first cameo appearance and origin of him, and I think it continues from 66. I did read this as well. Super cool book. I probably should have went and read my copy of 66 first, but I didn't have it out, and my copies of 66 are in a little bit better shape. This one's got some stains on the back. It's probably the lowest grade of the ones I've picked up. This one is from October of 67, and I put this in the good, very good range. It still looks pretty good, but you can see there's some kind of discoloration here. Every time I find it, it's definitely got that tanning look. I definitely love the cover with the him cocoon. It's a really weird story. I don't know how it matches up with what goes on the MCU. It does seem different to me. I've got to go back and read a good run of this Fantastic Four run here, if I can get some lower grade reader copies. I always get nervous reading my key books when they're in good shape. Should probably be more nervous reading the low grade stuff because that's the stuff I'm probably more likely to damage when I've got to handle it so gently. But just great. Stanley, Jack Kirby, Silver Age again. So, and this was, again, he gave it to me for 25 bucks, which I thought was a dirt cheap price for this book. I was surprised when he said, I didn't even really go through it. When he said 25 bucks, I just grabbed it. I mean, for a Warlock key for $25, again, that's a no-brainer. Okay, switching it up. No more Fantastic Four, but we're sticking with Marvel. This one he had for a while, and I kind of passed it up a couple times because it's in rough shape. It's X-Men 49. Cool Jim Steranko cover. This is the first appearance of Polaris from October 1968. Again, Steranko on the cover, Arnold Drake story, Don Heck and Werner Roth on the pencils. And I passed it up because there's a couple of long book-length creases, and for some reason I thought it was in a lot worse shape the first time I looked at it. I picked 50 the first time I went in. He had these X-Men books out, and I left 49 behind. And he had it, let's see, what did he have it marked at? Again, this was 25 bucks, but it's probably in the very good range, and it's not bad. And this seems to be the money book when it relates to Polaris. I obviously far prefer that the 50 cover is unreal. Beautiful Steranko. Those colors are so cool. The energy coming off Polaris, awesome. So again, I just kept looking at it. I'm like, for 25 bucks, am I really going to not pick this up because of those creases? I think I thought it was torn and stuff, but it's not. So happy to grab that. He had quite a few X-Men keys kicking around. So yeah, I figured what the heck, 25 bucks. Silver Age Marvel key. I'm not going to leave it. Even though I left it the first couple times. All right, switching up completely here. This was just something that popped up on the same shop's wall. And I've been watching a lot of videos out there with people showcasing pre-code horror and, you know, Golden Age stuff, which I really don't know much about, but this just caught my eye at the price he had it at. And it's not pre-code. It does have the code on it, but it's Mystic number 54. This is from Atlas Comics, December 1956. Again, it's pretty low grade. You can see a big crease here. It's not the coolest of covers. It is pretty dark. I kind of like this stuff that's a little more morbid on the covers for this horror stuff, but I don't come across a lot of these Mystic comics too much, and I've seen other channels showcase them, and I just wanted to get my hands on a little bit more Golden Age horror stuff. So it's Bill Everett on the cover, and I struggled to find the writers on the stories. There's multiple artists listed. I haven't read this yet, but I think it's got like 4 or 5 individual stories on there. It's in the good, very good range, but it was like 45 bucks, which I thought was fair. I would have liked to get it a little bit cheaper just because it isn't pre-code, but still, it's Golden Age. And this shop is great with credits. They do a program where every 10 back issues you buy, you take the average price and you get that in credit. So if I buy 10 $10 books, I get 10 bucks on my account. And I just love piling it up to 100, 200 bucks and just buying a big book with it. So I always keep that in the back of my mind that, okay, maybe this is a little more than fair market value, but I'm getting that towards credit. So, and most of the stuff I'm buying there is in that $25 to $45 range. So it's usually a big chunk of credit when it pays off. So. Okay, last 2 books, we're going to go with my favorite, Amazing Spider-Man, and I'm pretty sure I've highlighted both these books recently, but I just keep coming across them. The first one is Amazing Spider-Man number 37, which I think has been relatively hot with MCU spec coming out of, oh God, I can't remember which movie it was. It's definitely the one where they're highlighting what's happening with Avengers Tower. I think it was from the trailers from Spider-Man Far From Home. So it's the first appearance of Norman Osborn, not as the Green Goblin. Of course, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko on this from June of '66. This is in good shape. I didn't even write down what I paid for it, but I'm pretty sure it was in the $30 to $40 range, and it's probably in the, VG range. So I wasn't going to leave another copy behind. I keep finding this one as well, and it's when I find this book, early Spidey under 50 for 30, 40 bucks. It's complete, beautiful cover. The colors pop. Again, those are no-brainers for me. So happy to have another copy. I think that's my 3rd copy. I can't remember. And final one, I think I showcased this recently, and I think I already sold off the extra copy I had. Again, I got this one when I first got back into books. Really good shape for cheap. It's gone up a bit since then, but it is Spider-Man number 46. This is from March of '67. This is the first appearance of the Shocker, Stan Lee and John Romita. Another super cool cover. I just, these Silver Age books, you can't get enough of the artwork. And again, I can't remember what I paid for it. I didn't even mark it down, but I'm sure it was in, again, the $30 to $40 range. And this book definitely goes for a lot more than that. And it's in pretty, pretty decent shape. Looks like a solid VG for me. It's got a little bit of a kind of, it's not a spine roll, but kind of a color breaking bend. You got some marks on the spine, but no major creases or anything. Some chipping, some minor tears, but overall it looks pretty sharp to me. So happy to get another copy of that. Just keep coming across those for whatever reason. So anyways, guys, again, sorry, my videos have been a little bit longer than I like. I usually like to be in the 15-minute range, but I guess I rambled a bit because we're at 25 minutes. So we will call it good for now. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed seeing the books. If you did, please hit the like button, leave some comments below, subscribe, come back, check me out. I'm trying to do this, at least every week if I can. So again, guys, thanks so much, and happy hunting to everyone out there.